Hey, what's going on everyone? BoHD here from PhoneDog.com. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to be painting a picture of what to expect for the successor to Samsung's Galaxy S10 smartphones. As you could probably tell from the title, there's going to be a big name change. Samsung is going to be calling the upcoming handsets the Galaxy S20 and not the Galaxy S11, as many would assume that they would do if they followed the trend over the last several years. And I say handsets plural because there's rumored to be as many as 5 models in the S20 series, some of which will be capable of 5G. So the Galaxy S20 will be the smallest of the 5 models, featuring a 6.2 or 6.4 inch edge-to-edge display, while the largest devices will be at 6.7 and 6.9 inch sizes. As for the resolutions, all 3 S20 versions are rumored to have a resolution of 3200 by 1440, which works out to a Quad HD display resolution with an aspect ratio of 20:9, meaning the phones will be taller and narrower than their predecessors. So they'll have bigger displays, but they won't necessarily be harder to hold in one hand or use with one hand because they'll be skinnier and taller. What's interesting about the displays are that they will still have bezels, but they'll be trimmed down even more than the ones on the Galaxy Note 10. Also, the curved edges may be a thing of the past, as XDA developers notes how flat the glass display of the S20 Plus 5G is compared to previous Samsung phones. So we could see the curved edges disappear in favor of just a flat, more simple smartphone look, for better or for worse. I know a lot of people really liked the aesthetics of the curved edges, but on the flip side, it's harder to hold on to the phone, and the palm rejection is kind of hit or miss. So sometimes because of the curved edges, you would accidentally press things you didn't want to. Also, we should see a 120 Hz refresh rate to make scrolling extremely buttery smooth. But there's one problem. Twitter leaker Ice Universe said that the display on the S20 won't be able to use the full WQHD resolution at 120 Hz. So if you want to use the higher refresh rate, you'll have to downgrade the resolution to FHD. So that kind of sucks. I think it's great to see 120 Hz in some form or fashion on a Samsung phone, but we're already seeing rumors of other phones like the OnePlus 8 sporting the 120 Hz refresh rate, but without any limitations to the display resolution. So the 120 Hz refresh rate will look good for maybe like a couple months, but then it will be kind of outdated as other, even more budget-friendly phones will feature a higher refresh rate without any resolution compromises. Now, it's also worth mentioning that the front of the phones should be almost entirely screened with no notch, thankfully, but there will be a cutout for the front-facing camera, similar to the S10 models. As for the cameras, this is where things get really interesting and maybe the area with the biggest improvements. So we're expecting a total of 4 or 5 camera sensors on the rear in a rectangular camera module. And according to XDA developers, the Samsung camera app code features a 108 megapixel photo mode, as well as 8K video support and several other new camera modes like a director's view, single take photo, and night hyperlapse mode. The asterisk with this rumor is that this new large sensor will not make it into all S20 variants, only the S20 Ultra. The lower end models or base models will feature an improved 12 megapixel camera sensor, a 64 megapixel secondary camera sensor, and some kind of ultra wide sensor and telephoto sensor with 3 times optical zoom. Meanwhile, the ultra high-end models will accompany the 108 megapixel sensor with a 48 megapixel 10 times zoom lens and 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens. And what we may see with the 108 megapixel sensor is not 108 megapixel images, but instead 27 or 12 megapixel photos where pixels are grouped in clusters of 4 or 9 to capture more light and more detail. So just remember, guys, megapixels aren't synonymous with quality. I will say though, as far as the 8K video support goes, if it does in fact turn out to be true, this would mean that you can zoom into the videos and still retain a ton of quality, because an 8K still frame will translate to 32 megapixel images, which is crazy and much better than the 8 megapixel images you get when you take a still from 4K video. Now, the processor that will be powering these cameras and the phones in general will be the new Snapdragon 865 CPU, which features a brand new AI engine to help speed up the digital assistants like the Google Assistant or Bixby. I almost forgot. I don't use Bixby at all. There's also going to be improved graphics and, of course, improved general performance that will put it on par with Apple's A13 Bionic chip. Now, the Galaxy S models released outside the US, though, they will most likely run on Samsung's new Exynos 990 chip that's capable of supporting up to 6 cameras, 120Hz refresh rate, and 5G, among others. And storage capacities for the S20 Ultra will start at 128 gigabytes and go up to 512 gigabytes and 12 gigabytes of RAM, or up to 16 gigs of RAM, with support for a micro SD card. So that's awesome. There's going to be plenty of storage and just a ton of RAM. What's also really neat to see is that we're very likely going to see improved battery capacities. The smallest battery we could see could be as high as 4,000 milliamp hours, while the S20 Ultra could have up to a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which will be great, especially if it supports 5G, which will drain the battery life more. We've also seen rumors of a 4,500 milliamp hour battery for the standard S20, but either way, it's going to be better than what we had in the Galaxy S10. And it kind of goes without saying, but wireless charging will still be supported, and we could see 25-watt fast charging support for the S20 and as much as 45-watt fast charging for the ultra premium S20 Ultra. Oh, and if you're hoping that the new phones will still pack a headphone jack, it's very likely that they will not, as Samsung cut the port in the Galaxy Note 10 last year. And just in order to support these extra large batteries we just talked about, they'll need all the space they can get. And unfortunately, that means cutting out the headphone jack, which pound for pound takes up quite a bit of space. So when will these new flagships be announced? Well, they're actually going to be announced very soon. It's right around the corner. Samsung has already announced the Unpacked event where they will make the announcement on February 11th. Usually phones will start shipping a couple weeks after the launch event, so the S20 could, in theory, be in your hands before the end of February. So with that said, let me know if you're excited for the Galaxy S20. What do you like about it? Are there anything, is there any feature that's missing that I didn't talk about? Will you be upgrading? Just let me know what you're thinking in a comment down below. I'm excited for these new phones, and I'm excited to see what 2020 brings for premium flagship smartphones in the Android space. With that said, as always, I'm BoHD from PhoneDog.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you right back here in the next one. See ya.